Hello, welcome to your video on y equals mx plus b. In this video, you will be able to write the equation of a line given the graph, so backwards from what we've done previously. How do I write an equation using a graph? Here are three pictures for you. We'll start with this one. The first thing you want to do, if there aren't points on there, is you want to pick points. So here I have a point here. And remember, it's where it crosses exactly. So we have 2 points here. And then you first want to identify what your slope is and what your y-intercept is. So my slope here, I'm going down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and over 3. So my slope then is going to be 5/3, but remember that this is actually negative, so it's going to be negative 5/3. B is my point where it crosses the y-axis, which happens to be right here, and that would be 0, 1, so my point is 0, 1, or you can just say 1, either way. That means my equation for this then is going to fit in the form y equals mx plus b, and you're just going to drag and drop. So y equals negative 5/3 x, and then b was plus 1. And there is my equation. So, very straightforward. You just have to find those pieces first. Here's another example. First, find your m and your b. So, slope is your change in y, which is 2, and then 1. So my slope is 2 over 1, which is just 2. And my b is where it crosses the y-axis, which happens to be here. And that point would be 0, 1. So this would just be 1. And then my equation would be y equals blank x plus blank. The m goes in the first blank, so that would be 2x. And then b was just positive 1, so there's my equation, y equals 2x plus 1. Last example for you. Again, identify your slope and your y-intercept. Slope in this case is change in y, so 1 over change in x, which is 3. And this is positive, so slope is 1/3. B is where it crosses the y-axis, which is right here, which would be 0, 4, which is labeled for you, which means B is 4. So my equation then would be y equals m, which is 1/3, x plus b, which is 4. Keep in mind, even though none of these examples had it, you can have your b be negative, so just keep that in mind. There are two special cases I want to talk about. Here's the first one. Actually, we'll save that for a second. Here's the first one. In this case, we have to identify our m and our b still. M in this case is 0. It's a flat line. Think about Mr. Slope. Oops. Think about Mr. Slope, and that will identify that 0 is the horizontal line. And then B is where it crosses the y-axis. It crosses right here, so that point would be 0, 4, which means our B is 4. My equation then would be y equals blank x plus blank. The m is 0, and then the b is 4. We can simplify this a little bit more. Being 0x is just nothing, we can say y equals 4. Either way is acceptable. You just look a little bit smarter if you have y equals 4. Second example is this one. Identify your slope and your y-intercept. Think about Mr. Slope again, and you know that this is actually a slope is undefined, which is what that U stands for. B is where it crosses the y-axis. This is never going to cross, so there is none. Because of these two things, our equation is going to look very different. Instead of it saying y equals, it's actually going to say x equals, because there isn't a y-intercept, and then the slope is undefined. So x equals 5, because it crosses the x-axis at 5. Your turn. Here is your equation. I'll make those points a little bit more obvious here. It crosses there and here. There are a couple more points along the way, but you can just use those two. please write the equation for this graph. All right, here we go. A slope you should have identified 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. So y equals positive 5/3 x, and it crosses at negative 5. So y equals 5/3 x minus 5. You could have also said 5/3 x plus negative 5. Either way is fine. This one just makes you look a little bit smarter. This is the end of your video. Thank you for watching.